The Persephone myth, retold artifact. The golden cage. In the eternal meadow of her mother's making, Kor dances among flowers that never wilt, under a sun that never sets, in a spring that never ends. She is 17 forever, or perhaps 70 or 700. Time has no meaning in Demeter's garden where nothing changes, nothing dies, nothing truly lives. "My precious daughter," Demeter calls from the marble pavilion, voice honeyed with love that suffocates. "Come braid my hair while I braid yours. Tell me again how happy you are, how perfect our life together, how you need nothing but your mother's love." Kor obeys, as she always obeys, fingers working through her mother's grain gold hair, while her own thoughts wander to questions she's not supposed to ask. Why do the flowers have no scent? Why does the fruit taste like memory of fruit? Why do her feet never tire, her hands never callous, her heart never race except in dreams she's forbidden to remember? The nymphs who attend her are hollow-eyed dolls, permitted companions who speak only in giggles and agreements. "Yes, Kor, the flowers are lovely. Yes, Kor, your mother knows best. Yes, Kor, you are the luckiest maiden alive to be so protected, so pure, so perfectly preserved. She has been collecting secrets. A withered leaf she found hidden under a stone, brown and crisp and more beautiful than all the eternal blooms. A drop of her own blood when she pricked her finger on a thorn that wasn't supposed to exist. She watched it dry, fascinated by its changing colour, before Demeter's magic erased the wound. The word death overheard when wind carried voices from the mortal world, a word that made her shiver with recognition of something essential she's been denied. "Mother," she asks one day, courage gathered like forbidden fruit, "why don't I age? Why don't I change?" Demeter's embrace tightens, love becoming iron chains. "Because you are perfect as you are, my darling. Change is corruption, growth is decay. Would you leave your mother? Would you abandon she who gave you life, who keeps you safe from all harm, all pain, all endings?" "No, mother," Kor whispers, the lie bitter on her tongue that has never tasted anything but sweetness. She doesn't know what she hungers for, only that this garden paradise feels more like preservation in amber, beautiful, eternal, and utterly lifeless. That night she dreams of roots growing downward into darkness, of seeds that must split apart to become, of winters that make spring possible. She wakes with dirt under her fingernails that shouldn't exist, tastes metal and minerals on her lips, feels a pull towards something vast and patient and waiting beneath the earth's perfect surface. "I am happy," she tells her reflection in the still pool that never ripples. The reflection doesn't answer, but something in its depth seems to smile with knowing that soon, very soon, the cage will crack. Not from outside force, but from inside pressure, the inexorable push of life demanding more than mere existence. She doesn't yet know that prisons built from love are still prisons. She doesn't yet understand that her mother's protection is possession, that eternal spring is another name for death. But in her bones, old as earth despite her maiden face, knowledge stirs. She was not born to be kept. The garden gleams around her, perfect as a painted tomb. She hums a song she's never heard, tends flowers that will never fruit, and waits without knowing what she waits for. Change is coming, it always does, even to places that pretend otherwise. Especially there. Artifact 2. The Narcissus Trap. The earth splits like a ripe fruit, and she falls, not taken, but finally taking the step her feet have been seeking all her eternal youth. The narcissus in her hand crumbles to reveal its truth. Not a flower, but a key. Not a trap, but an invitation written in petals and signed with shadow. Hades doesn't seize her. He simply stands at the chasm's edge, extends one hand and waits. His eyes hold patience older than her mother's fear, deeper than the roots of the world. "I do not take," he says, voice like distant thunder, like stones grinding to soil. "I only receive what comes to me, and everything eventually comes to me." She looks back at the garden, sees it clearly for the first time. The flowers are painted on air, the fruit is hollow decoration, the eternal sun is a spotlight that permits no shadows, no depth, no rest. Her mother's realm is a stage set for a play about life, not life itself. A museum of spring, where nothing real can grow because growth requires death, and death has been banished. "If I go with you," she says, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice, "can I return?" "Everything returns," he answers, "but nothing returns unchanged." The question is not can you, but will you want to, once you know what you are capable of becoming? The nymphs shriek, or maybe that's Demeter, sensing the breach in her perfect fence. Kor feels the garden's magic pulling at her, trying to root her feet in false flowers, wrap her in chains of eternal safety. But she has tasted her own blood, has seen the withered leaf, has dreamed of seeds splitting in darkness. "My mother says you are death," she tells him. "I am," he agrees. And death is the space between what was and what will be, the pause between breaths, the winter that makes spring possible, the dark that gives meaning to light. Your mother offers you existence without experience. I offer you the chance to discover what you become when you stop being what others need you to be. She takes his hand. It is warm, this surprises her. Solid, real in a way nothing in the garden has ever been. The earth swallows them, and she falls not in terror but in recognition. This is what her dreams have been trying to tell her. This is why seeds bury themselves. This is why roots grow down before stems grow up. The descent is not violent abduction, but a diving deep, like swimming to the bottom of a lake to retrieve something precious that can only be found in the depths. Her mother's screams fade above them, replaced by the sound of her own heartbeat, loud and real and rhythmic as she's never heard it in the garden's eternal noon. "You're not what I expected," she tells him, as they descend through layers of stone and story, past the bones of ancient mountains, through veins of gold and silver that pulse like living things. "I am exactly what you expected," he replies. "You just didn't have the words for it yet. Your mother kept you from the vocabulary of endings, but your bones know the language. Every cell in your body speaks it fluently, the dialect of cycles, the grammar of transformation." She realizes he's right. This falling feels like flying. This darkness feels like finally opening her eyes. This stranger feels like the oldest friend, the one who's been waiting patiently for her to remember what she knew before her mother's fear taught her to forget. "What am I?" she asks as the descent continues, as she feels herself changing with each fathom deeper. "You are what happens when spring chooses winter, when life chooses death, when the maiden chooses to discover what comes after maidenhood. You are Kor dying to become Persephone. The Narcissus key crumbles completely in her hand, its work done. She doesn't need it anymore. She has become her own key, her own door, her own passage between worlds. Artifact 3. The river Styx. The river doesn't look like water. It looks like liquid oath, like promises made manifest, like every binding word ever spoken flowing in one eternal current. Charon's boat waits, but Hades shakes his head. "She doesn't ride," he tells the ferryman. "She chooses." "Choose what?" Kor asks, though part of her already knows. The river calls to something in her blood, some ancient recognition that predates her mother's garden, predates even her own birth. "To cross the Styx by your own power is to make an oath that cannot be broken," Hades explains. "Passengers can be retrieved, ransomed, reclaimed, but those who wade through on their own feet, who let the river know them and name them, they belong to themselves forever after." She understands. This is the true moment of choice. Not the Narcissus, not taking his hand, but this, standing at the edge of the river that separates the girl she was from the woman she might become. The water, not water, reflects no face back at her, shows instead all the faces she could wear, all the selves she could become if she stops being only what her mother needs. "What does it feel like?" she asks. "Like dying," he says simply, "and like being born, like forgetting everything you thought you knew, and remembering everything you actually are. The river strips away what isn't real. It's not kind, but it's honest." She puts one foot in. The cold is beyond cold. It's the absence of her mother's warmth, the negation of that suffocating love. It climbs her leg like inverse fire, and she feels the first of her illusions dissolve, the belief that she needs protection. Second step. The river rises to her knees, and she gasps as it takes the next lie, that she is innocent. She feels every secret thought she's ever had, every moment of rebellion, every suppressed desire rise to the surface and claim its place in her wholeness. Third step. Waist deep now, and the current pulls at her, not cruelly but insistently. Here goes the fiction that she is only light, only spring, only growth. The river shows her the seeds of darkness in her own heart, the capacity for endings, the power to say no, to refuse, to destroy what needs destroying. "I can't," she whispers, feeling herself dissolving, feeling Kor dying with each step. "Then don't," Hades says from the shore. "Turn back. Your mother will forgive you. The garden will accept you. You can be 17 forever, pure forever, powerless forever." The word powerless strikes her like lightning. Is that what she's been? All that eternal beauty, all that perfect preservation, has it all been elaborate powerlessness? She takes the 4th step, then the 5th, faster now, pushing through the current that wants to know every secret corner of her soul. The river takes her memories of the garden, but leaves her the knowledge gained there. Takes her mother's version of her story, but leaves her the authority to write her own. When she emerges on the far shore, she is transparent for a moment. The river has washed away everything false, and what remains needs a heartbeat to solidify into new form. She sees herself as if for the first time, not the maiden, not the daughter, but something harder and softer both. Something that has chosen its own becoming. "Cora?" Hades asks, and she hears the question in it. "No," she says, and her voice has changed, carries now the echo of the river's depths. "Kor stayed in the water, I am what emerged. Then what shall I call you?" She thinks, feels the weight of naming herself, the power and responsibility of it. "Persephone," she says finally, "the one who brings destruction." She pauses, tastes the truth of it, and through destruction, transformation. Behind them, the river continues its eternal flow, carrying oaths and endings, carrying the girl she was away to wherever lost selves go. She doesn't look back. Some crossings cannot be undone. She wouldn't undo this one even if she could. Artifact 4, the throne offered. The throne room is not what she expected. Not dark, but illuminated by a different kind of light. Phosphorescent minerals, the slow pulse of magma far below, the soft glow of souls like candle flames in coloured glass. The walls are living rock that breathes slowly, and she realises the palace itself is conscious, ancient, watching. "You were expecting bones?" Hades asks, noting her wonder. "Torture chambers wailing of the damned?" "I was expecting..." She pauses, realises she doesn't know what she expected. Her mother never gave her details, only warnings. "I was expecting to be afraid." "Are you not?" she considers. "I'm afraid, but not of what I thought. I'm afraid of how right this feels, how much I recognise this place, like I've been dreaming of it without remembering the dreams." He leads her to the centre of the vast hall where 2 thrones wait, one occupied by shadow and patience, one empty but emanating subtle power, like heat shimmer above summer stone. The empty throne is not new. She can see that in its worn arms, its depth of polish. "It has been waiting. This has always been yours," he says simply. "I didn't steal you for myself. I came because the realm has been incomplete, unbalanced. Death without rebirth is mere ending. Winter without the promise of spring is only absence. The throne has been calling for its queen since before your mother bore you." She approaches it slowly, runs her fingers along carved pomegranates, wheat sheaves, poppies, symbols she recognises from dreams, from moments when her mother wasn't watching, and her mind wandered to questions about what lay beneath. "Why didn't you just tell me?" Why the flower, the abduction scene? Would you have believed me if I'd appeared in your mother's garden and explained you were meant to be Death's queen? Would she have let you consider it? Sometimes truth can only be approached sideways, through the crack in the wall rather than the guarded door. She knows he's right. Demeter would have hidden her deeper, wrapped her in more protective spells, maybe sent her to sleep for eternity rather than risk losing her to her own choices. "If I sit," she says, "what happens?" "You become what you always were but couldn't access. The power that's been dormant, waiting for you to be ready to wield it. But..." He pauses and she hears the weight of it. "You cannot be queen here and maiden there. You cannot rule death and pretend you don't know endings. The throne will change you irrevocably." "Everything changes me irrevocably," she says, surprising herself with the bitterness in it. "Every day in that garden changed me, made me less myself, more her perfect daughter. At least this change is my choice." She sits. The throne receives her like water receives a stone, completely, immediately, inevitably. Power flows into her, not foreign but familiar, like blood returning to a limb that's been numb. She sees suddenly with doubled vision, the world above, green and growing and willfully ignorant of its foundation, and the world below, vast and patient and absolutely essential. She sees the dead, not tormented but transitioning, not imprisoned but processing what they were before they can become what's next. She sees her mother's garden from below, sees its roots that don't reach deep enough, sees how it's slowly strangling itself by refusing the natural cycle. "I understand," she breathes, and her breath moves through the realm like wind through wheat. This isn't about choosing death over life. It's about choosing the whole over the partial, the real cycle over the pretty fiction. "Yes," he says, and she hears relief in it, centuries of waiting for someone to understand. "Your mother offers eternal spring, but spring without winter is meaningless. I offer partnership in maintaining the balance that makes existence possible." She feels the crown materialize on her head, not placed there but grown from her own power, her own acceptance. It's made of frozen tears and compressed coal that will someday be diamond, of iron from blood and calcium from bones. "I am Persephone," she declares, and the realm responds, recognizes, rejoices in having its queen at last. "I am the queen of the Underworld, bringer of destruction, guardian of transformation. And my equal," Hades adds quietly. "Never my subordinate, never my possession. My partner in the great work of endings that enable beginnings." She nods, feels the truth of it settle into her bones. The throne doesn't hold her, she holds it, claims it, becomes it. She is not captured but crowned. Not fallen but risen to meet her destiny from below. Artifact Fee, the pomegranate garden. The garden exists at the heart of the underworld, and it is nothing like her mother's paradise. Here, things grow in darkness. Pale fungi that glow like scattered stars, crystals that bloom from cave walls, flowers that feed on memory and mineral rather than sunlight. It is beautiful in the way bones are beautiful, structured and essential and absolutely honest about what it is. "Your realm," Hades says, gesturing to the vast cavern garden. "I maintain the architecture of death, but you govern what grows from it." She walks among the strange plants, recognizes each one though she's never seen them before. Here is the flower that grows from final words, its petals made of whispers. There is the tree that feeds on regret, its fruit containing the wisdom only available to those who have made mistakes. A pool reflects not faces but possibilities, all the selves that died so the current self could live. At the garden's heart stands the pomegranate tree, and she understands immediately that this is not just any tree but the tree, the first one, the template from which all others grew. Its roots reach down to the foundations of existence, its branches hold up the ceiling of the world. Its fruit hangs heavy, red as blood, red as hearts, red as the moment between sunset and darkness. "Tell me the truth about the seeds," she says. "They are commitment," he answers. "Not imprisonment, but investment. Eat them, and you cannot fully leave because part of you will always be planted here. Refuse them, and you remain a visitor, a tourist in your own kingdom, powerful but not rooted." She picks one, feels its weight, heavier than fruit should be, heavy with consequence. When she splits it open, the seeds spill out like garnets, like drops of concentrated life, each one containing the entire cycle of existence in miniature. "My mother would say this is a trap. Your mother would say anything to keep you from choosing something she didn't choose for you. But look," he gestures to the garden around them. "Everything here chose to be here. The fungi could grow in light but prefer shadow. The crystals could remain plain stone but choose transformation. Even the souls who tend this garden are here by choice, finding more meaning in cultivating the aftermath than they ever did in the before." She sees them then, the gardener souls, translucent but content, tending to plants that grow from endings. One looks up at her, and she recognizes something in its eyes, not sadness but satisfaction, the peace of understanding one's purpose. "If I eat them," she says, "I can never again be only core. You can never again be only core regardless. You've sat on the throne, crossed the river, seen the truth beneath the world. The seeds don't change you. They acknowledge the change that's already happened. They're not a trap but a treaty, a signature on the document of your transformation." She holds a seed up to the strange light, sees through its translucent flesh to the potential within. Not just one tree, but entire forests. Not just one story, but all stories that involve choosing depth over surface, complexity over simplicity, the difficult real over the easy false. 6, she says suddenly, knowing it in her bones. 6 seeds. For the 6 months the world needs death to appreciate life. 6, for the balance between above and below. 6, For the number of times I almost asked my mother to let me grow up and was silenced before I could speak. She eats them one by one, each with its own flavour, iron and earth, snow and stone, endings and beginnings. They don't go down easy, truth rarely does, but they settle in her stomach like anchors, like answers, like the weight that will keep her grounded when the world tries to pull her back to surfaces. How do you feel? He asks. Planted, she says and laughs. It's the first time she's truly laughed, not the tinkling giggle of the eternal maiden, but something deeper, rougher, realer, rooted. Like I finally exist in 3 dimensions, instead of being painted on the surface of my mother's expectations. The garden responds to her ownership, blooms brighter, grows wilder. The pomegranate tree drops more fruit, recognising its queen, its keeper, its partner in the eternal dance between ending and beginning. She is no longer visiting the underworld. She has eaten its fruit, accepted its truth, become its beating heart. She is home in the dark, and the dark is home in her. Artifact 6. The first seed months have passed, or years or moments. Time moves differently in the underworld, measured not by sun, but by transformations, not by days, but by deaths and rebirths. Persephone has learned to read the movements of souls like weather, to tend the gardens of aftermath, to judge with mercy and steel in equal measure. She has become herself finally fully. But above, the world dies differently, not the clean, purposeful death of natural cycles, but the shrieking, strangling death of grief without acceptance. Your mother refuses to let anything grow, Hades tells her, showing her the world above through a pool of dark water. She holds the earth in perpetual winter, but not the kind that prepares for spring. This is winter as weapon, as tantrum as denial. Persephone sees it, fields of frozen wheat, children starving, mortals burning their furniture for warmth. Her mother sits in her temple, hair turned grey with rage and sorrow, refusing offerings, refusing prayers, refusing everything but the return of her daughter exactly as she was. I should go to her, Persephone says. You cannot, you've eaten the seeds. You belong here now. I belong here, yes, she agrees. But here and there are not opposites, they're partners. My mother sees them as enemies, because she can't accept that her daughter is both spring and winter, both maiden and queen. But I am both, I must be both. She reaches into herself, finds the 6 seeds nestled in her core like tiny hearts. She understands something Hades doesn't, something even her mother hasn't grasped. The seeds aren't chains but choices, not prison but passport. They don't trap her in one realm, they give her citizenship in both. Watch, she tells him, and places her hand on the pomegranate tree. Power flows, not the power of death or life separately, but the power of the transition between them. She draws from the tree the memory of every seed that ever chose to break itself open for the chance to become more. She gathers the wisdom of every ending that enabled a beginning. And then she does something unprecedented. She sends a seed upward. Not herself, she stays rooted in her underground throne. But she sends a message through the roots of the world, through the underground networks that connect every living thing. The seed breaks through the frozen ground in her mother's temple, sprouts despite the winter, blooms impossible and undeniable. A black pomegranate flower growing in ice. Demeter sees it and screams, rage or recognition or both. She knows this signature, this particular shade of shadow-touched growth. Her daughter is speaking to her in the language of plants, the only language Demeter truly trusts. I am not dead, the flower says in the language beyond words. I am not lost, I am not imprisoned. I am transformed, I am queen. I am choosing to be where I am, who I am. And if you love me, not your idea of me but me, you will stop punishing the world for my growth. Demeter touches the flower, and it shows her everything. The garden prison she'd made, the choices Persephone took, the throne claimed, the seeds eaten not in defeat, but in victory. It shows her daughter not as stolen treasure, but as sovereign of her own existence. She chose this, Demeter whispers to the impossible bloom. The flower becomes a fruit, black, red and perfect, containing a single seed. Demeter understands the message. Your daughter has planted herself in darkness to grow toward a different light. You can accept this and let the world bloom again, or you can maintain this sterile winter forever. But you cannot have spring without accepting that spring comes from winter, that your daughter is both the planted seed and the harvest, both the descent and the return. For the first time since the earth cracked open, Demeter weeps. Not tears of rage, but tears of rain, tears that water the frozen earth, tears that accept what is rather than demanding what was. "Come home," she whispers to the flower. "I am home," Persephone replies through root and stem. "But I will visit. 6 months with you, 6 months here. Not because I am forced, but because both realms need what I've become. Because I am the bridge between endings and beginnings, and bridges must touch both shores." The first green shoot pushes through the snow somewhere a child is watching. Spring is coming, but it will never again be the eternal, unchanging spring of before. Artifact 7th, the Mother's Rage. When Persephone rises from the earth for the first time since her descent, she is not what Demeter expects. Gone is Kor's translucent skin, her flower petal softness, her eternal youth. This woman who emerges has shadows under her eyes that speak of mysteries witnessed, hands that have weighed souls, a crown of dark jewels that cannot be removed because it has grown from her own power. "What has he done to you?" Demeter shrieks, reaching for her daughter but stopping just short of touching, as if Persephone might burn her. "He has done nothing to me. I have done everything to myself, with myself, for myself." Persephone's voice carries new harmonics, the echo of underground rivers, the whisper of last words, the promise of next chances. "You are ruined, destroyed. That monster has corrupted you, stolen your innocence, murdered my child. Your child was dying in your garden, Mother. Dying of safety, of sameness, of suffocating love. I chose to live, even if living meant changing, even if changing meant disappointing you." Demeter's rage transforms the air around them. Wheat sprouts and dies in seconds, flowers bloom and rot. The very ground cycles through seasons in moments, unable to find stability in the presence of such divine fury. "I will petition Zeus. I will wage war on the Underworld. I will tear apart the cosmic order itself before I accept this defilement." "Defilement?" Persephone laughs, dark and rich. "Mother, I rule half of existence. I judge the dead. I govern the transformation of all things. I hold power you cannot imagine, because it's power you've always feared, the power of endings, of letting go, of allowing change. You were perfect, you were pure. You were yours, I was yours. Your creation, your possession, your eternal baby. But mothers who never let their children grow up aren't mothers, they're captors. And children who never individuate aren't living, they're performing." Demeter strikes her. The slap echoes across realms, and for a moment both goddesses freeze. It's the first violence between them, the first crack in the fiction that their love was perfect, because it was perfectly controlled. Persephone touches her cheek, feels the heat of divine rage marking her skin. But she doesn't strike back. Instead, she does something worse. She shows mercy. She understands. "You're not angry that I was taken," she says quietly. "You're angry that I wasn't. You're furious that I chose to leave, that I wanted something you couldn't give me, that your love wasn't enough to keep me small forever. How dare you? I dare because I am queen of the dead, and the dead teach terrible truths. Every soul that passes through my realm tells the same story in different words. They regret not what they did, but what they didn't do, not the chances they took, but the ones they refused. You would have me refuse every chance forever to keep me safe, but that's not safety, Mother. It's death wearing life's costume." Demeter collapses, suddenly ancient, suddenly exhausted. "I only wanted to protect you." From what? From growth? From power? From myself? Persephone kneels beside her mother but doesn't embrace her. Not yet. Trust must be rebuilt, boundaries established. "You protected me so thoroughly that I had nothing left to push against, no way to discover my own strength. You protected me from life itself. The Underworld is not life." "The Underworld is half of life, the half you've always denied, always feared. But seeds know better. They understand that darkness comes before light, that burial precedes breakthrough. Every piece of grain you've ever grown knows what you refuse to acknowledge. Death and life are dance partners, not enemies. You expect me to celebrate that my daughter has become Death's bride. I expect you to see that your daughter has become herself. And yes, that self includes death, includes shadow, includes the parts of existence you've spent eternity trying to exclude. But it also includes spring, not your version of spring, eternal and unchanging, but real spring, the kind that comes from winter, that means something because it ends. The earth between them sprouts something new. Not Demeter's perfect flowers or Persephone's shadow blooms, but something between. Something both. A plant that can grow in light or darkness, that thrives in the transition zones. 6 months, Persephone says. That's the compromise. 6 months above, bringing spring that knows it will end. 6 months below, bringing mercy to endings. Not because anyone forces this, but because it's what the world needs. Artifact 8. The negotiation. Zeus's throne room crackles with tension. Gods have gathered, some supporting Demeter's demand for her daughter's return, others recognizing the cosmic necessity of Persephone's dual role. The king of gods himself looks weary, caught between sister and brother, between order and change. The girl was taken by force, Demeter states, but her voice lacks its earlier conviction. She's seen her daughter, seen the queen she's become, and though she hates it, she cannot entirely deny its power. I was not taken, Persephone interjects, stepping forward. The assembled gods murmur. She should not speak without permission, but she is queen of the Underworld now, equal in rank to any here. I descended by choice, and I ate the seeds by choice, and I choose now to propose a solution that serves all realms. You are a child, Demeter snaps. You don't understand. I understand death, Persephone interrupts, and the room goes cold. Shadows gather at her feet unbidden. I understand the weight of every ending, the hope of every transformation. I understand what mortals need because I meet them all eventually, and hear their stories. They need both of us, Mother. They need your growth and my acceptance of endings. They need springs and winters, plantings and harvests. Hades stands silent in the corner, letting her speak for herself. This is her negotiation, her terms to set. He is partner, not owner. The seeds bind you to the Underworld, Zeus says carefully. This cannot be undone. I don't want it undone. But the seeds don't imprison, they create connection. I can travel between realms because I belong to both. I propose to spend half the year above, bringing spring, teaching mortals that growth comes from accepting previous deaths. Half below, ensuring the dead are properly transformed, maintaining the balance. Ridiculous, Demeter cries. You would make yourself a migrant belonging nowhere. I would make myself a bridge, Persephone corrects, belonging everywhere that needs me. Mother, your eternal spring was killing the world slowly. Nothing could properly die, so nothing could properly be reborn. And Uncle, she nods to Hades, your realm was incomplete without someone who remembers life, who can offer hope of transformation rather than just ending. Athena speaks. The logic is sound. The realms are interconnected. Having a sovereign who understands both serves cosmic balance. Aphrodite laughs. The girl has become a woman by choosing her own path. Isn't that always the way? Love, real love, requires the freedom to leave and return. But the mortals, Apollo interjects, they suffer these transitions. They suffer more from stagnation, Persephone responds. Ask them, would they choose eternal sameness or meaningful cycles? They already know the answer. They celebrate harvests because they know about hunger. They rejoice in spring because they've survived winter. They love fiercely because they know about loss. Zeus raises his hand for silence. The queen of the Underworld has spoken wisdom, but Demeter, sister, you too must agree. Will you accept this arrangement? Demeter looks at her daughter, really looks perhaps for the first time. Sees not the child she lost, but the woman who stands before her, powerful and complete. Sees the strength that came from choosing difficulty over ease, depth over surface. You will return each spring? She asks, voice small. I will return, but not as Kor. Never again as only Kor. I return as Persephone, bringing spring that carries winter's wisdom, growth that acknowledges endings. Can you accept that, daughter, Mother? Or do you only love the girl who no longer exists? The question hangs like a blade. The room holds its breath. Finally, Demeter nods. I will learn to love who you've become, though it breaks my heart. Hearts that break can hold more, Persephone says gently. That's what the pomegranate taught me. The fruit must split to share its seeds. Zeus strikes his lightning bolt against the floor. It is decided, 6 months above, 6 months below. The eternal cycle, with Persephone as its guardian and guide. But Persephone isn't finished. One more thing. My story will be told many ways, as abduction, as romance, as tragedy. Let them all be told, but let this truth be known, I chose. Every step, every seed, every crown, I chose to become myself. Witnessed, the fates speak in unison, and their thread spins gold and shadow intertwined. Artifact 9. The return changed. Her first spring as queen of both realms begins differently. When Persephone rises from the earth, she doesn't burst forth like her mother expects, all flowers and light and celebration. She emerges slowly like dawn, bringing with her the scent of deep earth and the memory of necessary endings. The mortals feel it immediately. This spring has weight, has meaning. It carries in its warmth the knowledge of the cold it's replacing. The flowers that bloom seem somehow more precious because everyone knows they'll fade. The grain that sprouts carries in its green the promise that it will ripen, be harvested, die, and return. "You're doing it wrong," Demeter says, watching her daughter walk through the fields. "Spring should be joyful, pure, celebratory." "Spring is joyful," Persephone agrees, "but joy without its opposite is just noise. Watch." She kneels by a farmer's field, where last year's stubble still pokes through the soil. As her hand passes over it, the old stalks decompose instantly, enriching the earth, and new shoots emerge, but slowly, naturally, earning their growth rather than having it forced upon them. The farmer, watching, falls to his knees. "Lady, you've returned different." "I've returned complete," she corrects. "And so has spring. It will no longer pretend that winter doesn't exist. It will no longer arrive without acknowledging what it's replacing." She establishes new rites. Where once Demeter's festivals demanded eternal gratitude for endless growth, Persephone's celebrations honour the full cycle. The spring festivals now begin with mourning for winter's necessary deaths, then transition to joy for new possibilities. The harvest festivals include thanks not just for abundance, but for the endings that made room for beginnings. In the villages, they start calling her by new names: the twice-born, the bridge-walker, the queen of turns. Children leave pomegranate seeds at crossroads. Women experiencing changes, marriage, motherhood, menopause, seek her blessing, understanding that she knows about transformation. "They fear you now," Demeter observes, not entirely disapproving. "They fear and love me as they should. I am the promise that endings aren't final, and the warning that beginnings aren't permanent. That's more honest than only being loved for giving without asking anything in return." She spends her days differently than Kor would have. Yes, she helps things grow, but she also teaches about pruning, about the necessity of cutting back to grow stronger. She blesses not just births but deaths, not just marriages but divorces when love has truly died. She is spring, but spring with teeth, spring with roots that know the darkness. At night, even in the upper world, she dreams of her other throne, feels the pull of the souls below who wait for her return. She is never fully here or there. She is always both, always bridging, always holding the tension between opposites. "Do you regret it?" her mother asks one evening as they watch the sun set. "Eating the seeds. You could have been free, could have returned fully." "Free from what? From my own nature? From the truth of what existence requires?" Persephone shakes her head. "The seeds didn't trap me, Mother. They freed me from the trap of pretending I could be only one thing. I am Death's queen and Life's daughter, winter's sovereign and spring's herald. I am the reminder that everything is always in the process of becoming something else." A young woman approaches them, pregnant, afraid. "Ladies, I fear for my child." "The birth! The pain!" Demeter starts to offer comfort, promises that all will be well. But Persephone stops her, takes the woman's hands. "The pain is real," she says. "The danger is real. Birth is always a kind of death, the death of who you were before. But on the other side of that death is transformation. Not easy, not painless, but profound. You will meet yourself anew on the other side of this birth, just as your child will meet the world." The woman nods, strengthened not by false promises but by truth. She walks away steadier. "That was cruel," Demeter says. "That was honest. And honesty is the kindest gift I can give. Would you prefer I return to pretty lies?" Demeter has no answer. She is learning slowly that her daughter's darkness might be its own kind of light. Artifact X. The eternal throne years pass, or centuries. Time is different when you are the axis on which seasons turn. Persephone has made her descent and return so many times that the path between worlds has become a road, worn smooth by her passage. She rules both thrones with equal authority now, and the universe has restructured itself around her rhythm. In the Underworld, she has transformed the realm of the dead into something unrecognizable from its former state. Where once souls waited in endless grey twilight, now they undergo specific transformations based on their needs. She has created gardens where the grieving dead can plant their sorrows and watch them transform into understanding. Libraries where lives can be reviewed, understood, rewritten in meaning if not in fact. Workshops where souls prepare for their next incarnation, if they choose it. You've made death into life, Hades observes, watching her work. I've made death into what it always was. Transition, the pause where transformation happens. Her throne in the underworld has grown. What began as basalt and shadow has become a living thing. Pomegranate trees growing from its arms, their roots reaching deep into the foundation of existence, their branches holding constellations of souls like fruit. When she sits, she can feel every death and birth across all realms, the constant pulse of transformation. Above, her influence has equally revolutionized the world. Spring is no longer naive youth, but conscious renewal. Mortals have learned to read the signs she leaves, which flowers bloom from graves, messages from the dead, which seeds refuse to sprout, ground that needs to lie fallow, which harvests come easy, deaths properly mourned, and which struggle, transformations resisted. You've changed everything, Demeter says, and it's not entirely accusation anymore. Sometimes it's almost admiration. The world doesn't work the way it used to. The world works the way it always should have. We just weren't letting it. You wanted eternal spring. Hades accepted eternal winter, and between you both existence was suffocating. Now it breathes, she demonstrates, gesturing to a field where Demeter's power once would have forced constant growth. Now it grows in seasons, explosive spring growth, steady summer abundance, autumn's graceful release, winter's necessary rest. The field produces more than it ever did under forced eternal spring, because it's allowed its natural rhythm. The mortals have built temples to you, Demeter mentions. More than to me now. They build temples to the truth of existence, which I've come to embody. The truth that everything changes, everything transforms, everything is always in motion between states. I am not more important than you, Mother, but I am more honest about what life requires. A delegation of gods arrives, minor deities of transition who have discovered their power amplified since Persephone established her dual reign. Gods of doorways, of dawn and dusk, of pregnancy, of metamorphosis. They kneel before her. Queen of passages, they name her. You have given us purpose. Before we were overlooked, considered lesser because we governed the spaces between rather than the states themselves. Now the cosmos understands that the space between is where everything actually happens. She receives them as equals, not subjects. Her power has never been about dominion, but about facilitating transformation. She is not queen because she rules, but because she serves the deepest need of existence, the need to change. I have a proposition, she tells the assembled gods, her mother, her husband. The 6-month cycle has served us well, but it's still artificial, still imposed. What if instead I moved as needed? Sometimes the world needs longer winters to appreciate spring. Sometimes it needs extended growth before rest. Let me read the necessity and respond accordingly. You would make yourself entirely autonomous, Zeus observes, having arrived to witness this gathering, beyond even our laws. I would make myself servant to existence's actual needs, rather than our arbitrary divisions. Death doesn't follow a calendar. Life doesn't emerge on schedule. Why should I? It's revolutionary. Gods follow rules, cosmic order, predetermined patterns. The mortals would have no certainty, Demeter protests. No way to predict seasons. They would have to pay attention, Persephone counters. To read the actual signs rather than assume patterns. To participate consciously in the cycles rather than passively endure them. Isn't consciousness what separates mortals from stones? She stands from her throne, both thrones somehow, simultaneously present in both realms. The power of it makes reality ripple. She has become the pomegranate, split open, seeds visible, each one containing infinite cycles. Artifact Candon. The teaching. In the place between worlds, where neither light nor shadow dominates, Persephone holds court for those ready to understand. Mortals who have touched death and returned, mystics who have glimpsed the machinery of transformation, children who still remember being other than what they are, they all find their way to her threshold classroom. Tell us the secret, they plead. How do we transcend the cycle? How do we escape the wheel of dying and becoming? She laughs, rich and dark and warm. You're asking the wrong question. It's like asking how to escape breathing. The cycle isn't a prison, it's the dance. The wheel isn't a torture device. It's the mechanism of existence itself. She shows them a pomegranate, splits it open, lets the seeds spill across the altar that exists in neither realm and both. Each seed is a complete cycle, beginning, middle, end, and return. You cannot eat the fruit without accepting the seed. You cannot have the sweetness without the potential for new growth. You cannot experience without transforming, a warrior asks. But surely there must be something permanent, something that doesn't change. Change itself is permanent. The process of transformation is the only constant. You are not the same person who began listening to me, and I am not the same goddess who began speaking. We are always becoming, never simply being. A mother protests. But I want my children to be safe, to be happy, to avoid suffering. Then you want them to be dead. Only the dead are safe from change, and even they transform in my realm. Safety is stagnation. Happiness without its opposite is numbness. To live is to risk. To grow is to hurt. To love is to guarantee loss. That's not cruel, that's honest. She teaches them the mysteries. First mystery, every ending is a doorway. What feels like death is often birth viewed from the previous life's perspective. Second mystery, resistance to natural cycles creates the only true suffering. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is the refusal to let pain transform us. Third mystery, you cannot skip seasons. No amount of force can make spring come before winter has done its work. Fourth mystery, the seed that refuses to break open never becomes the tree. Choosing to remain intact is choosing to remain potential rather than actual. Fifth mystery, the darkness knows things light cannot teach. Descent is not failure but education in a different classroom. Sixth mystery, you are already dead and already reborn constantly in small ways. Every breath is a practice round for the larger transformations. But how do we know when to hold on and when to let go? A philosopher asks. The same way a tree knows when to release its leaves, by feeling the internal season change. Your body knows. Your dreams know. The part of you that's afraid knows, which is why it's afraid. The question isn't how to know, but whether you'll listen to what you know. She stands, and her form shifts. Now maiden, now mother, now crone, now queen, all simultaneously true. Lady, are you happy? The question stops her. She considers. I am complete. I am authentic, I am purposeful. Happiness is too small a word for what I am. I am necessary. I am the truth of existence embodied. I am the promise that every ending enables a beginning, and the proof that every beginning requires an ending. She gives them each a pomegranate seed, not to eat unless they choose, but to hold, to remember. This is my teaching. You are not canaries in cages you can't see. You are seeds who have forgotten you're meant to break open. You are seasons pretending to be permanent states. You are transformers believing you're supposed to be static, the cage you're in. You grew it yourself from your fear of change. The key? It's accepting that you are both the lock and the liberation, both the planted seed and the flowering tree, both the winter and the spring. She opens a door that wasn't there before, or perhaps was always there, waiting to be noticed. Go. Return to your lives, but remember, every pomegranate holds the entire cycle. Every ending is a beginning in disguise. Every descent is an opportunity to gather treasures that can only be found in the depths. And when you're ready, truly ready, to stop fearing your own transformation, you'll find that the underworld you've been avoiding is actually the foundation that's been supporting you all along. The teaching complete. The myth lives not in the telling, but in the transformation of those who hear it, who recognise themselves in the maiden who chose to become queen, who understand that mastery isn't escape from the cycle, but conscious participation in it. Every reader holds their own pomegranate. The only question is whether they'll choose to taste the seeds of their own becoming.
Like and subscribe for more Morning Star illumination.